There is a feeling state that when you enter it and can actually sustain it, makes your brain operate differently, your body produce different chemistry, and your reality deliver different results. It's not excitement or gratitude. It's a state that most people have never been taught to identify, let alone access deliberately, because it doesn't match any of the emotions that personal development typically tells you to cultivate. It's quieter than excitement, stiller than motivation, calmer than hope, and it produces more tangible, real-world results than all of those emotions combined. Neville Goddard pointed at it when he said, "Feeling is the secret." But most people misunderstood which feeling he was talking about. They assumed he meant emotion. He didn't. He meant something deeper, something closer to the body's total posture than the mind's momentary mood. And the neuroscience now shows why this particular state produces changes that emotional intensity alone never can. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what this feeling state is, why it's different from every emotion you've been told to chase, and the 3 signals your brain uses to determine whether a feeling state is real enough to rewire around. Let me start with what this state is not, because clearing away the imposters is the fastest way to recognize the real thing when it shows up. Most people who try to shift their internal state in order to change their external reality reach for one of 3 feelings. And all 3 of them feel correct in the moment, but fail to produce lasting change for the same underlying reason. They're too loud. They're too intense. And your subconscious doesn't believe them. The first imposter is excitement. You sit down to visualize your desired reality and you try to feel excited about it. You imagine the house, the money, the relationship, the freedom, and you pump yourself into a state of high energy enthusiasm. Your heart rate elevates, your dopamine spikes. You feel a rush of, yes, this is happening, that lights up your whole body. And for about 30 minutes, you're on top of the world. Then the crash comes. The excitement can't sustain itself because it's not anchored to anything real. It's a spike, not a baseline. And your subconscious, which is monitoring your body's chemistry for the truth beneath your mental performance, registers the spike for what it is, a temporary departure from your actual state, not a genuine shift. And so, it discards the signal and reinstalls the default. The second imposter is forced gratitude. You've been told to feel grateful for what you want as if you already have it. So you sit there saying, "I'm so grateful for my abundance," while your bank account hasn't changed and your body knows it. The gratitude you're generating isn't coming from completion. It's coming from the cognitive effort of trying to override your reality with a positive emotion. And that effort, that strain of performing thankfulness you don't actually feel, contains a hidden signal that your subconscious reads instantly. The hidden signal is lack. You wouldn't need to force gratitude for something you genuinely had. You don't sit in your living room deliberately generating gratitude for the fact that you have walls. You just have walls. The forced gratitude acknowledges at the deepest level that the thing isn't here yet. And not here yet is the instruction your subconscious encodes. The third imposter is determined intensity. This is the "I am going to make this happen" feeling. The jaw-clenching, fist-pumping, motivational speech energy that feels like conviction but is actually just adrenaline. It activates the sympathetic nervous system, it floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline, and it tells your brain that you are in a state of effortful pursuit, which is the neurological signature of not having. Because a person who already has the thing isn't clenching their jaw about it, they're not pumping their fist, they're sitting on the couch. The intensity of the pursuit is itself a broadcast of distance between you and the goal, and your brain builds from the broadcast, not the words layered on top of it. All 3 imposters fail for the same reason. They're too far from the frequency of having. And your subconscious, which has decades of experience with what having actually feels like, rejects them the way your immune system rejects a pathogen. They don't match the signature. They get filtered out. And the default state, the one your subconscious does recognize, gets reinstalled. So what does the real state feel like? The real state feels like room temperature. That's the most accurate description I've ever found for it. It's the emotional equivalent of a room that's not too hot and not too cold. You don't notice it, you don't think about it. It's just comfortable, unremarkable, settled. The feeling of the wish fulfilled isn't the feeling of getting what you want. It's the feeling of having had it long enough that you've stopped thinking about it. It's the feeling of a Tuesday afternoon 6 months after the thing arrived, when the excitement has faded and the thing has simply become part of your life. It's the way you feel about your kitchen table. You have a kitchen table. You don't generate excitement about it. You don't practice gratitude for it every morning. You don't clench your jaw and determine that you will have a kitchen table. It's just there. It's normal. It's room temperature. That room temperature normalcy is what Neville Goddard meant by the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not the wish being granted, the wish being old news. The moment after the celebration when the thing has settled into the quiet background of your life and you've moved on to thinking about what to make for dinner. That specific quality of bored sufficiency is the most precise neurological signal you can send your subconscious, because it matches the signature of genuine having so perfectly that your subconscious can't distinguish it from the real thing. I discovered this by accident before I understood the science behind it. For months, I had been doing visualization with all the intensity I could generate, pumping myself up, feeling the excitement, trying to vibrate at a higher frequency or whatever the language was at the time, and nothing was moving. Then one night I was too tired to try. I'd had an exhausting day and I didn't have the energy for an intense visualization session. So I just lay there. And instead of reaching for the exciting version of my desired reality, I accidentally fell into the mundane version. I felt what it would feel like to have the thing and be bored, to have it and be thinking about something else, to have it and not care because it was just part of my life now, the way my shoes are part of my life. Nobody gets excited about shoes they've owned for 2 years. I didn't realize it at the time, but in that exhaustion, I had stumbled into the real state for the first time. And within weeks, things started shifting in ways that months of intense practice hadn't produced. The tiredness had been a gift. It had forced me past the imposters and into the only state that actually works. And the neuroscience explains exactly why this works. Your brain determines what's real based on 3 specific signals from your body. Not from your thoughts, not from your words, from your body. And the feeling state that makes reality rearrange is the only state that sends all 3 signals simultaneously. I call these the 3 signals of realness. The first signal is absence of urgency. Your body communicates urgency through a specific set of physiological markers: elevated heart rate, shallow breathing, forward-leaning posture, muscle tension in the shoulders and jaw, increased cortisol production. When any of these markers are present, your brain tags the current experience as something you're moving toward, not something you currently inhabit. Because a person who already has what they want isn't leaning forward. They're leaning back. They're not clenching. They're resting. Their heart rate is settled. Their breathing is deep and easy. When you enter the real feeling state, the room temperature state, urgency disappears from your physiology, not because you suppress it, because the state itself doesn't contain it. There's nothing to be urgent about when the thing is already here and has been here for months. And the absence of urgency is the first signal your brain uses to assess whether the new state is genuine. If urgency is present, even subtly, the brain tags the experience as aspiration, which is a polite word for lack. If urgency is absent, the brain takes the first step toward accepting the state as current reality. This is why the imposters fail. Excitement contains urgency. Forced gratitude contains urgency. Determined intensity is nothing but urgency. They all lean forward, they all have elevated markers, and they all get tagged by the brain as this person is trying to get somewhere they're not yet, which is the exact opposite of the message you need to send. Here's a test you can run on yourself right now. Think about something you want, something you've been working toward or hoping for. Now, pay attention to what your body does the moment you think about it. Does your breathing change? Does your chest tighten even slightly? Do you feel a subtle forward pull in your torso, as if your body is reaching toward the thing? That forward pull, that micro lean, is urgency, and it's present in almost every visualization or manifestation practice that most people do. They think about what they want, and their body leans toward it, subtly, but enough for the brain to register. Now think about your kitchen table. Think about the chair you're sitting in right now. Notice what your body does. Nothing. It does nothing. There's no lean, no tightening, no shift in breathing because those things are already here. Your body has no reason to reach for something it's resting on. That absence of reaching, that bodily stillness in the presence of the thing, is the first signal of realness. And your practice, if it's going to work, needs to get to the point where you can think about your desired reality and your body responds the way it responds to your kitchen table. With nothing, with room temperature, with complete, unremarkable stillness. The second signal is somatic settledness. This goes deeper than the absence of urgency. Somatic settledness is the positive version of what your body does when it genuinely feels safe and complete. Your vagus nerve activates in its ventral vagal state. Your digestive system comes back online. Your muscles release holding patterns that may have been there for years. Your breathing drops from the chest into the belly. And your body's electromagnetic field, measurable by instruments like those used at the HeartMath Institute, shifts into a coherent pattern that's distinct from any other emotional state. This somatic signature of settledness is what your brain checks for at the deepest level. It's the signal that says, this organism is not in survival mode. This organism is not pursuing anything. This organism is resting in a state of sufficiency. And that signal, which cannot be faked by mental effort because it involves involuntary autonomic systems, is the one that gives your subconscious permission to begin rewiring. Here's how to know if you've reached somatic settledness during your practice. Your body will feel heavy in a good way. Not tired heavy, grounded heavy, like you're sinking into whatever surface is supporting you. Your hands might feel warm. Your face might relax in ways you didn't know it was tense. You might notice your stomach unclench or your shoulders drop a quarter inch. These are small signals, but they're unmistakable once you know what to look for. And they're the proof that your body has accepted the state as real. Your mind can lie. Your body can't. If the body is settled, the subconscious is listening. I remember the first time I genuinely reached somatic settledness during a visualization, and the difference from every previous attempt was immediately obvious. Every other time I'd practiced, my body had stayed tense, subtly but consistently. There was always a slight forward lean in my energy, a slight holding in my chest, a slight vigilance that I didn't recognize as vigilance until it was gone. The first time it dropped, the first time my body genuinely relaxed into the feeling of having, I almost startled myself because the state was so unfamiliar. It wasn't exciting, it wasn't emotional, it was quiet, it was still, it felt like lying on a beach after a long swim, when your body is too relaxed to hold tension even if you tried. And from that place, the scene I was imagining stopped feeling like imagination and started feeling like memory. That shift from imagination to memory quality is the hallmark of somatic settledness. Your brain can't tell the difference between a deeply felt imaginal scene and an actual memory when the body's autonomic markers match. If you want to reach somatic settledness more consistently, the theta state right before sleep is the most natural entry point because your body is already beginning its nightly transition from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance. My free guided meditation, Manifest While You Sleep, is designed to deepen that transition and hold you in the settled state while you loop your scene. You can download it for free at shiftwithluna.com. The third signal is perceptual normalcy. This is the subtlest of the three, and the one that separates people who can enter the state briefly from people who can sustain it long enough for rewiring to occur. Perceptual normalcy is the quality of the experience when the thing you want has become so integrated into your self-concept that you no longer perceive it as special. It's the difference between a tourist and a local. A tourist in Paris sees the Eiffel Tower and is amazed. A local walks past it on the way to buy groceries and barely notices. Both of them are seeing the same tower, but their perceptual relationship to it is completely different. One is experiencing novelty, the other is experiencing normalcy. When you can feel your desired reality with the same bored, familiar, oh, that old thing quality that a local feels about their city, your brain receives the third signal of realness. The experience isn't being tagged as novel, which would mean it's new, which would mean it just arrived, which would mean you didn't have it before. It's being tagged as familiar, as expected, as unremarkable. And the familiar, expected, unremarkable is what your brain wires for. It's what your RAS scans for evidence of. It's what your default mode network builds its sense of identity around. Novelty gets attention. Normalcy gets architecture. Most people's manifestation practice keeps them permanently in tourist mode. They visit their desired reality during their visualization session the way a tourist visits a foreign city. Wide-eyed, impressed, taking mental photographs, noticing everything, and then they leave and go home to their real life. The brain processes this exactly the way it would process an actual vacation. A brief, enjoyable departure from baseline that has no bearing on the permanent architecture of identity. When you shift from tourist to local, from visiting the state to living in it with the bored familiarity of someone who's been there for years, the brain stops tagging the experience as a departure and starts tagging it as home. And home is what gets built into the foundation. Home is what the default mode network protects and maintains. Home is what your RAS calibrates to. The shift from tourist to local is the shift from temporary state to permanent identity. And it happens not through intensity, but through normalcy. This is why Neville Goddard was so specific about the scene you construct during SATs. He didn't say to imagine the moment of receiving. He said to imagine a moment that could only happen after you've already had the thing for a while. Not the wedding day, but the quiet breakfast 6 months into the marriage. Not the first day at the new job, but the boring Wednesday 3 months in. Not the moment you check the bank balance and see the number, but the afternoon when you're thinking about something else entirely because the money is no longer something you think about. The mundanity is the message. The ordinariness is the signal. And your brain responds to that signal by building it into the permanent architecture of your identity. I want to tell you about someone who understood this so well that her results became almost comically predictable. She had been doing manifestation work for years with mixed results. Lots of emotional highs during practice, occasional small wins, but nothing that stuck. When she shifted her entire approach to pursuing normalcy instead of intensity, everything changed. She told me that her new practice felt almost boring. She would lie in bed at night and feel her way into the most mundane possible version of her desired life. Not the celebration, the dishes, not the breakthrough moment, the Tuesday afternoon where nothing special was happening because special had become ordinary. She said the first sign it was working was that she stopped wanting to talk about it. The desire lost its charge, not because she stopped caring, because it had moved from the category of thing I want to the category of thing I have. And within a month of sustaining that perceptual shift, the external circumstances began rearranging so fast it almost scared her. Not because she'd manifested harder, because she'd finally sent the signal her brain needed to hear. This is real. This is normal. Build for it. So here's the full picture. The feeling state that makes reality rearrange is not an emotion. It's a somatic condition that sends 3 simultaneous signals to your subconscious mind. The first signal, absence of urgency, tells your brain that you're not pursuing the thing. You have it. The second signal, somatic settledness, tells your brain that your body has accepted the having as a physical fact. The third signal, perceptual normalcy, tells your brain that the having is not new or special, but familiar and expected. When all 3 signals fire simultaneously, your subconscious cannot distinguish the felt state from genuine reality, and it begins building infrastructure for it, new neural pathways, new perceptual filters, new autonomic baselines, new behavioral defaults, not because you commanded it, because you sent it a signal so congruent with the signature of real having that it had no basis for rejection. And this is why Neville said feeling is the secret. Not emotion, not intensity, not excitement or gratitude or determination. Feeling, the body's total state, the organism's complete posture, the somatic, autonomic, perceptual experience of being a person who already has what they desire and has had it long enough that they've forgotten to be excited about it. The reason this state is so difficult for most people to reach isn't that it's complicated, it's that it's counterintuitive. Everything in our culture tells us that getting what we want should feel amazing, exciting, intense, emotional. And the actual feeling of having, the real one, feels like nothing. It feels like room temperature. It feels like a Saturday morning where nothing special is happening. And people resist that feeling because it doesn't match their expectation of what transformation should feel like. They want fireworks. The universe is offering them a quiet room, and they keep walking past the quiet room because it doesn't look like what they were told to look for. There's an irony here that's worth sitting with. The very people who are most committed to changing their reality are often the ones who struggle most with the feeling state that actually changes it. Because their commitment generates intensity. Their desire generates urgency. Their dedication generates effort. And all three of those qualities, which are genuinely admirable in most contexts, are the exact qualities that prevent the room temperature state from landing. They're trying too hard to feel right. And the trying is the noise that drowns out the signal. The most dedicated practitioners sometimes need permission to be less dedicated. Permission to care less visibly. Permission to feel nothing about the thing they want most. Because that nothing, that bored emptiness where the desire used to generate heat, is not apathy. It's completion. And completion is the signal that changes everything. If you want a tool that helps you drop into this quiet room temperature state before sleep, when your body is naturally transitioning toward the settledness that the real feeling state requires, Manifest While You Sleep is my free guided meditation built for this exact practice. It doesn't try to pump you into emotional intensity. It guides you into the calm, settled, somatic state where all three signals fire naturally. You can download it free at shiftwithluna.com. Here's what I want you to practice tonight. Lie in bed. Close your eyes. And instead of reaching for an exciting version of your desired reality, reach for the most boring version. The version where you've had the thing so long that you don't think about it anymore. Feel what your body would feel like on a random Wednesday in that reality. Not the best day, the most average day. The day where the thing you once desired is now just a fact, the same way your kitchen table is a fact. Settle into that feeling. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow. Let the urgency drain out of your muscles. And notice what happens when you stop chasing intensity and start inhabiting calm. The state you'll find there, if you let yourself stay long enough, is the quietest, most unremarkable, most ordinary feeling you've ever experienced. And it is the most powerful signal your brain has ever received.